Hello, hello, hello. This is Tamika Seaton, President and CEO of Grow Your Nonprofit, where we help startup small and stagnant nonprofits grow through fundraising strategies, strategic planning, and so much more. Guys, today you're in for a treat. I have my special guest here, Stacy Cook. She is the CEO of SalusCare right here in the beautiful Southwest Florida and the neighbor of Grow Your Nonprofit. Their building is actually next door. So before we get started, I'd like to thank the sponsors of my podcast. Hodges University with a campus in Fort Myers. Stay near, go far. They change lives for the better. Trinity Life Foundation Naples, helping at-risk youth through their enrichment program. AVID, that stands for the Associations of Haitians Living Abroad. They just opened an amazing support center right here in the beautiful Southwest Florida, where they help people with immigration support, utility, rental assistance, and so much more. Last but not least, Vax Truth. They just received a grant from the CDC to raise awareness of COVID-19 and vaccine resources in the Black and Brown communities. So guys, like I said, my special guest here is Stacy Cook.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Stacey. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate that.
No, I'm honored.
Oh, thank you.
You could have anybody sitting right here next to you. And so thank you. It means a lot. It really does to me and the company and to all our behavioral health folks in the community. This is a big deal.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate what you do because mental health is so important. I think for a long time that was something that was not being talked about. I think it was sort of swept under the rug, those people. But I like that mental health is at the forefront. I think this month is actually Mental Health Awareness Month. But actually the truth is it's all year round. Mental health is so important. And our world has really experienced so much with kind of over COVID, I guess. The hurricanes,
yes,
isolation, and then people being connected via social media, but not really connected, right?
That's right.
So that can take a toll on one's mental health. But before we get into our conversation, let's please tell our audience a little bit about yourself and how you got into the whole nonprofit mental health sector.
Okay. Well, about 25 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a long time. My mom was working at what was Lee Mental Health back in the day. So before SalusCare there was Southwest Florida Addiction Services and Lee Mental Health. Mm-hmm. So I started my career at Lee Mental Health.
Oh, wow.
My mom was a nurse, and I worked as a behavioral health technician. I was volunteering.
Oh, wow.
In fact, she said, if you want to use the car, you're going to drive me to work, you're going to drop me off. Oh, and then, by the way, you're going to volunteer.
Oh, I love your mom.
She's no joke.
Oh, my God.
You're going to put your time in. And for her, she wanted me to, it was her passion. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I loved helping people then. So I became very immersed with the population. I was very interested in behavioral health diseases. And that's how I started my career. I worked as a behavioral health technician. Mm-hmm. I worked as a therapist, a case manager, and that's where it all started. And then I got very interested in managing programs in administration. So I started doing that, and lo and behold, here we are. I have a master's degree in social work.
Okay.
So, once I decided, once I came to the realization that I have a calling, here it is.
Yeah.
I went to school. The organization put me through school. We didn't have the money for that.
Oh.
It's a perk of the company, which is great. So I got my bachelor's degree, my master's degree, and I've been doing it ever since.
Wow. So how long have you been at SalusCare?
I have been at SalusCare since the late 90s. This go around, 18 years. I had a break-in service for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. I went out to explore a little bit in the community.
That's good.
I did. And then I realized I love this organization. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I love our Lee County community. And so I came back to SalusCare in 2005. That's where I've been hanging out, spending my time, and keeping busy, taking care of the community.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned mental health disease.
Yes.
Can we explore that a little bit more? What does that mean, and what are some examples of mental health diseases?
You know, we started calling it a disease probably the last 10 years or so. Back in the day, if you will, could be 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we referred to it as mental illness. Not that people don't call it that now.
Yeah.
But what's been identified through research is that it progresses like a disease, like high blood pressure, like diabetes, like heart disease. And recovery is not only possible, recovery is part of a mental health disease like any other disease. Some people will take medications lifelong. Some people will take them for a short period of time, just like somebody with diabetes might. But it has a very natural progression as a disease, and I think it's so important to call it a disease. You know how much stigma there is.
Yes.
I mean, we can talk about generally, and then we can start looking at our Black and brown brothers and sisters. We can start talking about LGBT.
Yes.
So it's in the name, I guess, that counts. We can start with calling it what it is, which is a disease, and help to normalize it as well. Reduce some stigma.
Besides medication, are there other alternative treatments for people who maybe don't want to go the medication route?
Yes. There are a lot of interesting treatments. One is therapy and counseling. For people who are interested, there's cognitive and behavioral therapy, which it's evidence-based. There's research behind it. There's specific techniques that have been tried and true and work for depression, anxiety, other thought and mood disorders. There's also things like eye movements, work with helping an individual who's undergoing trauma move their eyes in a particular direction to help reduce stress, to help reduce trauma. It's called eye movement desensitization. There's some techniques or a machine that's called transcranial magnetic stimulation.
Wow.
And it sounds really invasive and kind of angry, but it's really putting some electrodes, not in anybody's brain, but just simply putting a cap on a person's head, and then there are some signals sent to brain waves in an individual's brain, and what it can do is help with treatment-resistant depression. It can help with anxiety. It can help with individuals who have tried medications and who are saying no more, because there are side effects to medications for some people. So there's quite a few things out there. There's techniques like visualization. There are some other language processing techniques that fall under the umbrella of counseling. So for people who are saying, I don't want medications, I'm not interested in psychiatry, first of all, we say, let's talk about that first. Let's take away the fear. And at the same time, there are a lot of options out there if you don't want medications.
Wow, interesting. So talk about the programs that you offer to the public. Do you have to have health insurance, or are there free programs for people who are low income?
Yes. We'll accept any individual regardless of their ability to pay.
Okay, very good.
So 50% of the people that we work with are underinsured, uninsured, or have absolutely nothing. So we receive money through Department of Children and Families.
Okay.
And we also receive United Way funding, county funding. It's been lovely in that way. So we can take care of people who, we know insurance, it's a tough road to hoe when you're trying to use it for behavioral health. So we'll work with individuals. We will bill based on family income. So we use a tool provided by the state, and depending on what the family income is, an individual can fall on a sliding fee scale. So, and they may pay absolutely nothing. They may pay a few dollars. They may pay a little bit more. It just depends. But folks can either walk in and see us on an outpatient basis. We have a minimum to no wait, kids and adult and outpatient, psychiatry and therapy. We also have crisis services. That's over on the Colonial campus.
Okay.
So that's equivalent to a psychiatric emergency department.
Wow.
So people who are experiencing suicidal, homicidal thoughts will come to us. We're able to hold an individual under the Baker Act for up to 72 hours, and we stabilize them. We can only keep them for a short period of time based on the law until we can stabilize the homicidal, suicidal thoughts or other symptoms that might be putting them at risk. Another level of care that we have is residential programming for adults and children. So we have people that will stay with us anywhere from a few days to a few months, to we have people who have been with us for years in our recovery programming. So we have, it's nice to be able to house people with us and have a full continuum of care. In addition, we take services into the community. We have case managers who go to where our clients are, where our families are at, and we take services in the home, into school, into wherever we need to go to meet folks where they're at.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really amazing. So the whole premise of the podcast is growing your nonprofit. Obviously, you started small, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So how have you grown the nonprofit organization over the years? What are some of the strategies that you've used that could help our audience who are maybe starting up or really small?
Okay. So back in 2013, SalusCare was two separate and distinct organizations. Southwest Florida Addiction Services, they were a substance abuse focused facility or organization, and Lee Mental Health was a mental health focused facility. And the two boards and the CEOs then made a decision that, wait a minute, we can serve the community better by coming together, reallocating resources, having essentially a bigger footprint in the community when it comes to advocating for funding, applying for grants, taking advantage of workforce, and generally being more competitive, because this is a competitive environment. And when I say competitive, I want to be careful. We're not out there hungry hippos with clients, right? We're not doing that, but we want to be sure we're staffed up, resourced up, so people don't leave us, because we don't want to disrupt care. So, you know, what I would say in my own humble experience is look for those opportunities to, one, how can you expand the current resource base that you have, potentially to reallocate the resources that you do have. I should back up and say inventory them, because I think what we do, or what I've done, is if you're not regularly inventorying what you have as far as assets, resources, capital, you're behind the eight ball. So I think doing that on a regular and consistent basis, and making sure that if there are partnerships that you could be taking advantage of in the community to expand your resource base, to expand your continuum, I think partnerships and relationships for me are huge and have been beneficial, especially when you're talking about serving our community. If you don't have the relationships, you're not going to touch who we need to touch.
Right.
And I think for one, women, leaders, and particularly I'll speak to, in my own opinion, to white leaders in this community, if you're in a not-for-profit world, you need to be sure that you're in the communities, all of them, that need our services, and partnering with people in communities that are underserved, that may be historically marginalized, and being sure that you're getting resources in those into those community, and partnering to expand that in that way as well. Because I think there's a lot of work that we need to do in the community that's not being done. And I think through relationships and partnerships and being in the right place is really important to me, and what I've been doing and what my company does. We need to do a better job at it, I will tell you.
I really like that, because when I was in the nonprofit world, I was a senior fundraiser at the Shelter for Abused Women and Children in Naples, and then I went on to be executive director of two nonprofits. And we were recipients of United Way funds, and they were big into collaborations, and they didn't like duplication of services. So that's what I heard from you when you mentioned the two boards sort of got together. And that's huge, because boards can have big egos, right?
Yes.
And everyone thinks that their nonprofit is the best nonprofits. But getting out of your own way and doing what's best for the community, I think that's huge. Me as a consultant, I actually talk more people out of starting nonprofits than starting them, because they don't understand what they're really starting as a small business. And the first thing I ask is someone else doing what you're already doing? Is it a duplication of services? Can you partner with that other organization? And of course, no one wants to hear that. But I genuinely am here to help organizations succeed. So I think that's very important. I like what you said about partnership, doing what's best for the community, getting out there and networking and seeing how you could do an even better job. Another thing I like what you said was inventory, and it made me think of Walmart.
Okay.
And it made me think of retail, because I was in retail before. We're always doing inventory.
Okay.
And I think that's very important, not even just the retail sector, for the nonprofit world to do inventory of everything. Is that once a year you do the inventory?
You know what, we would do it once a year, and we would have, which we just exited this week, we have budget season. And, you know, we do, it's a crunch week, and we're going through every one of our service lines and making decisions, and we do that inventory, but we started doing it every month.
Really?
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
Smart.
We have
every month
budget meetings, and every month with the leadership, and so we take the opportunity to look at, let's talk about what we've got in front of us. What do we need? What's benefiting us? What isn't working anymore? Because we feel like a big company because we have 6 different locations. And so what was happening is stuff at the Colonial campus, which is 3 miles away, is happening. And over here at the Evans campus, we didn't know about it. And so 3 miles could be 1,500. So we decided, wait a minute, we need to be talking more often, and particularly about inventorying. What do we have? What do we need? What are we holding on to that isn't serving us? And so it's a work in progress. We're constantly reminding ourselves, wait, let's back up. Let's not forget about this. We might have done it last month, but we need to keep at it.
What does that look like? Is that at a monthly staff meeting where each leadership team, they give a report as to what's going on in their department, or how they do? Yeah,
they do. We have the chief financial officers in the room, and all the other officers from the administrative team, myself, our chief of operation, and the directors attend, and as well as their supervisors. And what we'll do is we'll look at each line item in the budget and talk about what does revenue look like. Because we receive state funding, there's certain things that we need to do on a monthly basis to keep up with billable services and so on. So we'll look at the number of services provided. We'll make sure that we're getting credit for those billable services. And if not, the leadership is speaking to, okay, here's what I think happened this month. Here's where we need to go back and do a little more exploration because we're not capturing time or we're missing a particular piece of the community. So it's a great time to check in about how operations are going, the financial management of those programs, and those leaders are incredibly responsible. They're looking at expenses and saying, here's what you're budgeted, here's what you actually did this month. And if you are over or you're under, they have to report a variance analysis and the why behind it.
Wow, I like that. And I like that everyone's held accountable for their area, and that gives them buy-in and feel they're responsible and that their voice is being heard. So I think that's really important. So I told you the time goes by so fast.
Don't tell me.
Come
on.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, can you give some advice, whatever advice you feel in your heart, to a nonprofit who's struggling to grow? They can't seem to get their board together. They're struggling with funding and really getting out there in the community. What piece of advice can you give them?
Okay. The first thing I would say is it's not all about you.
Oh.
Because
that's huge.
Isn't it? Because you think as the leader or any level of leadership in the company, I think a lot of us take very personal responsibility. We put our heart, we put our soul and our minds into it. And it's important to step away and look from the outside, kind of a third person perspective, so you can step away from that emotional connection. It's not that you need to disconnect from what you're feeling, but if you're taking things personally, you really have to step away and look from the outside.
Oh, wow.
The other thing that's been really important for me is I don't have all the answers, and I have got to be comfortable admitting that and being fully transparent in that regard. I lean on my team. It's all of us. It's not me. I may be the person out there more than others, and I may have to take responsibility in a different way. But this company, and I think most, in my opinion, you have got to nourish your team. You have to love. I say this out loud to my team. You got to love them. You have to care for them. You need to water and trim and care for that relationship with your leadership team and with your employees. You've got to share a common purpose, a common mission, built on collaboration and cooperation and constant feedback. That's been, and I'm not an expert. I don't mean to put it out. That's something I'm working on all the time.
Right.
We've been focusing on the 5 C's of accountability and getting deep into that, and really working hard to be sure I'm open to what this dynamic company needs from me, what the community needs from me and my team. And I say build relationships. When in doubt, get from within, and then outside, externally, let people know what you're doing. Let them know what you need. Be transparent. Be fully transparent and make the ask even when it's uncomfortable.
That was wonderful. I have one more question, and
Yes.
that's it, because this conversation is so juicy. It's lonely at the top. How do you keep your mental health healthy?
Okay. I carve out time for myself to be outside in nature. I get a lot of healing and sort of putting together. I defrag outside. I really do. And when I'm outside, I'm taking off my shoes and I'm putting my feet in the grass. I'm the woman at the park who's laid out. I'm laying
You're one
in
with the
lawn.
earth.
Yeah, I gotta ground. I spend a lot of time with, I love my family very much. They're very important to me. I find a lot of strength from them, a lot of love, and they also put me in my place. So remember, you do an important thing. The community needs you, but we need you, and you need you. So they help me to stay grounded. I do a lot of reading. I like to work out, and I try my hardest to take good care of myself. Sometimes I need reminders, and my team is like, why don't you take a mental health day?
That's very good. That's very good. Stacey, we could talk all day. This has been so wonderful. I feel like I've already known you for like a long time.
I know, same.
Yeah, you're so cool. So thank you so much for coming out to the Grow Your Nonprofit podcast. Guys, you heard it here first. Another amazing nonprofit right here in the beautiful Southwest Florida, making a difference in our community. Most importantly, mental health. We all have minds, we all have brains, and we have to take care of it. Just like we work out, we want our physical appearance to be healthy. We need to also check that mental appearance on the inside, because that's even more important. So guys, I'm so sorry, Stacey, how could someone reach you, and what is your website for more information?
Yes, you can reach us at area code 239-275-3222. You can also, and you could text. You can text and we'll get back to you.
Very good.
The other thing you can do is go to www.saluscareflorida.org. You can reach us there. We'll chat with you. You can fill paperwork online. Come and see us, adults and kids. We don't have a wait. That's a joy to us.
That's awesome.
So we're happy to serve the community. We're ready.
You heard it here, guys. Stay tuned for more Grow Your Nonprofit podcast.